Zyxel, and we're your networking ally.
Well, good morning. Welcome to this edition of Zyxel Tech Talk. My name is Tri Nguyen. I'm one of the product managers here at Zyxel. If I can get a quick raise of hands to see who's here on, can hear me okay. Hey, Brett, thank you so much. Hey, Dan, thank you. Kevin, good to have you here. Today, we're going to be talking about kind of a fun topic. I called it, when I thought of a new topic, it's like, hey, what do I think of? So one thing that came to mind was to see or not to see, right? So I have that little Lego guy there in the corner. Really just about Shakespeare. Hey, what is about network visibility? So what I want to do with the Tech Talk usually is on Tuesdays. We like to kind of talk about a specific topic. We're going to start with an introduction to Zyxel, and then this topic of discussion to see or not to see. And then we're gonna have a Q&A at the end as well. So I want this also to be an interactive time. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask them into the Q&A section. Let me open up the chat box as well in case you use that one. But basically that's what it is. It's gonna be me interacting with you. We have the topic kind of in general to kind of cover. I've been here at Zyxel for almost 16 years now in product management, in engineering, now also in the sales management role as well. So it's really good to have you, especially if you're thinking about, hey, who is Zyxel? How can Zyxel help you as a partner to become, more, to do business, right? We want to be there as your networking ally. So that's really our tagline is, how do we be your ally? So we get to work with you in all those ways. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a few slides to go through, but again, I wanted to be interactive. It's not we're not tied to this specifically, necessarily, but it's good to have some sort of basis that we can talk about in our discussion. So if you have not heard of Zyxel, who are we? We've been around for 30 years. We just celebrated our 30th year this last September timeframe. 30 years in the networking business. We power up over 700,000 businesses worldwide using Zyxel solutions. We have 1,500 employees that serve 150 different markets and 100 million devices that are making different types of global connections worldwide. So really a large company that is kind of a worldwide base, and we're not like a fly-by-night, kind of customer type vendor. We have products that fulfill all sorts of needs. So especially we're focused, in the channel, we're focused into mostly the commercial kind of products, which is our security appliances, our wireless access points with 11AX and 11AC, wired connectivity using Ethernet switches. They're fiber connections. We have 10G connectivity, all sorts of whatever infrastructure you're looking for. Gateway devices that can do hotspot functionalities, a Facebook Wi-Fi logins, or hotspot for guest network access, and then also network management altogether. So the last piece is what we're really going to be talking about today, and that is what the question is: to see or not to see, right? It's kind of a play on words that I like to play on words, anyways, a lot of times too. So really, what is important to see, and what is also important that, or maybe something that you don't see, or that you should see, right? So what is there to see? Well, in network infrastructure, as a kind of a network solution provider, what you want to do is have visibility. I run into the cases very often when I'm dealing with partners that are maybe talking to the end customer, or even the partners themselves who actually are installing equipment like just unmanaged switches, or very basic firewalls, or very basic access hardware. The problem with that is that they're really cheap, right? They're really inexpensive, and it just gets you the ports. But when the time comes when you need to troubleshoot what's going on, you have no clue what's going on. So knowing where things are as well, the visibility of how your network is actually put together comes into play. It's very important on that troubleshooting step. I think a lot of these kinds of tips is really about how do you provide better service to your customer, right? So there's a lot of things that you should be getting visibility, or at least giving yourself the window to see, and how do you act upon it. So network infrastructure, seeing where the devices are, within the network. Also seeing what kind of network traffic is there, right? Seeing actual packets that are going through, or at least the types of traffic. How do you get that kind of visibility, right? When people are using it to download files, or to go watch movies, or listen to music, or go to specific websites. How do you do that? Like, how do you see that? And then you want to see network threats as well, right? We're talking about kind of network control, network. IT manager will always tell you, I want to know what's going on my network, and they want to have full control. Just like the IT here at our, in our company, I had to get them just before the cast here. We had to get myself unblocked basically from Facebook, because we have Facebook blocked for employees. So I had to get that get on the white list of that, so that I could post and stream this to Facebook Live, right? So no, the IT needs to know what's going on in the network. At least that's their mindset. They want to know what's going on. And from a managed service provider, if you're looking at becoming a managed service provider, knowing of that information as well is very helpful, not only for yourself during troubleshooting, but also when you're trying to do other things, right? When you're trying to like help the customer, or even to show value for the service that you're providing. It's all part of network management. So that's really what to see, and there's things that you cannot see as well, or there's things that you want to keep yourself away from being seen. So it's also a play on that one. You may want to not be seen as well. So you can make your way, find ways to make yourself invisible to the internet, right? So there are things that you can do within your network to kind of protect yourself. So if you can't be found, if you're in kind of like a stealth mode, or in a cloaked mode, kind of deal, that means it makes it really hard for typical or generic, devices, or ghosted machines, or zombie machines to kind of look and find you, right? So if they can't find you, they don't know you exist there. There's no way to kind of try to attack you as well. Using network encryption, different types of encryption technologies that exist out there help you to be not seen as well. So your data that's passing through, or your remote access back to the office using traditional public internet means, using encryption will help you to get through that without being seen. It's all encrypted. And then also not to see is content and application control, meaning that you're actually blocking or disabling the fact that your employees, or maybe your customers' employees, can go to different websites or use different apps, different kind of applications, things like that. So again, it's still part of what we call network management, right? And I'm sure a majority of you already know a lot of this, but how do we do all of these things, right? There's a lot of different pieces that come into play, right? There's like, here I listed just about 6 of them. There's still other things as well. There's, network monitoring, knowing kind of the health of the network. That's a really important part too. And then after you know all these things, it's only as good as, if you could see all these things, but you couldn't do anything about it, then it's kind of useless anyways, right? You can't really act upon it. So the power is to how do you act upon these scenarios as well. So let's talk about a little bit about different things. So being connected, being able to see the different devices in kind of a holistic view gives you a really good picture of what's going on, not only on the network, but maybe with the specific employees, or specific kind of sites that are within that network, or within the organization. And it really kind of tells you, hey, what devices are all there, and you can actually get a picture of all that in kind of a holistic view. Now you also want to be able to block or deal with threats, right? Threats are coming in. How do you see those? And so you actually have to have a multi-layer level of protection using some sort of device. In this particular case would be a firewall, right? Or a UTM sandboxing firewall that is then allowing you to get visibility into a lot of different functions, including threats that are from the outside. So mostly, threats from the outside typically is what people think about. Intrusion detection, any malware that's coming through the network, sandboxing of different applications that you don't even know even exist that may be bad for you or may pose a threat. So a lot of times people are thinking from outside in. So that's true. You want to be able to block that too. But then there's also threats that are caused by inside out, right? So if somebody is infected, or they're trying to use different web pages or trying to go and use different applications that are not approved, like in my example, Facebook, you then can be, you need to have control over there as well. So a lot of that information is then synced and it's always available online in this database cloud when you're using this kind of threat system, which our product will do. Also being able to conquer unknown threats as well. So there's a lot of threats out there that require signatures and things like that to see, right? You have to see, you can only see what you know, right? That's pretty much what virus signatures are. A lot of UTM threat signatures are about. You have to actually know what they are. They have to be detected. It's kind of like any kind of virus that's out there, right? Even real life virus, you don't know it exists until you see it and something happens. There's either a symptom, right? Your computer is slowing down, your network is now no longer working, right? Or traffic is going to somewhere else. So how do you conquer the unknown threats? Well, we actually have a sandboxing solution that will do that, that emulates files and executables and things like that into the cloud in a safe sandbox, and then registers basically what's its behavior, what it's doing. Is it trying to make unknown connectivity somewhere? Is it acting like a remote control device, that kind of thing? And then it actually becomes identified, right? It's made the unknown now known. So it identifies it. If it's a malicious attack, it provides that information, creates a signature, updates across the entire cloud for that. The other thing that you can do to hide, right, from the internet, you can stay hidden basically with something called GEO Enforcer. What is GEO Enforcer? Well, basically it is translation of IP addresses from different countries into kind of a database. And you can use that information to kind of select, hey, where do I want my traffic to come from? So you can literally say, hey, connectivity from, VPN connectivity from other countries outside the United States, because I don't have any employees outside of the United States, are blocked, right? So they're unseen or they cannot be seen. You could actually literally lock yourself down so you could be seen by nobody from a kind of a networking standpoint. As long as you're not running a web page, I mean, that's all. It doesn't really matter, right? If you know your connections, where they're coming from, you can actually block it down. You can lock it down so you only have connectivity from those particular sites. And that allows for you to kind of become anonymous. You can even turn on, kind of a stealth mode where any kind of packets, pings, any kind of connectivity kind of checks onto your public IP address on the WAN side will just automatically get dropped, right, and get blocked. So literally you're going to be looking like it's an empty black hole, like it's just an empty space. The IP doesn't respond, which is actually really good. So it helps you with like PCI compliancy as well. It also helps you with people who are using zombie machines that are just trying to find hosts. So it just randomly keeps picking IP address to see if something or someone responds, and then it checks different ports and see if those respond, and then make different kinds of automated attacks. So as long as you're not even there, then nobody knows that you're there to be even attacking. So being able to block it down by country is really good as well. So because of that, you can tie it with your security policies, you make firewall rules behind it, all that good stuff. Now I also mentioned about encryption. So using hybrid or using different technologies for encryption, either SSL VPN or what I would recommend is IPsec VPN. But if in the worst case, you can use L2TP over IPsec. So IPsec is the most secure one because it gives you more options to do that. SSL is basically your web browser doing all of the encryption and sending that data over a web kind of interface, right? But using encryption methods can also help, right, to make yourself be not seen as well. And managing VPN tunnels and things like that can be a little cumbersome if you're trying to do it kind of a la carte. So I don't know how many of you in chat here have done VPNs before. Raise of hands. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Dan, Kevin. Yeah, so you know how cumbersome it could be, right? It could be like a lot of, where you have to have the client side like set up with the right information. You have to match it onto the hardware side. How do you make it easier, right? There must be a way, and there is. So be rest assured that we have solutions for that. But being able to make site-to-site VPNs, that's very important as well, to make connectivities from maybe a home office to your office and make sure that the data that you're transferring through it, the remote connection, is also encrypted, because you never know, where it may be that there could be somebody in between, or your packets getting rerouted somewhere, where somebody in the middle can kind of piece together what bits of information that they may get from the traffic that you're heading. So using VPN is very important to make that business kind of connectivity from home to office, or from remote employee to office, right? To get to your connection shares. And also, we're moving into the cloud as well. So if you want to connect to Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS for your cloud services and different applications that exist in the cloud, you also have to use a VPN, or at least an approved VPN product. And I'm proud to say that Zyxel is actually one of only like 7 vendors in the world that is approved for both Microsoft Azure and also Amazon AWS for our firewalls to make those connections. We've tested and we've been approved, and we've been certified basically for our boxes, our VPN, our ATPs, our USG devices, to make that kind of connectivity, a dependable, encrypted connectivity to those 2 services. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. So hopefully, as you guys are finding time and you guys are not looking for, you're looking for an alternative to making those connectivities to those services, give Zyxel a try for sure. Being able to see threats and being able to control them, being able to look at deep packet inspection, layer 7 scanning, not just going, hey, particular website, but it could be that they're using a specific app, or maybe they're using BitTorrent. But of course, all of that is very CPU intensive. It requires a lot of processing. So it typically, makes it so that your connectivity is, or at least their processing throughput is degraded, right? It's lower speeds, usually about 1/10 of the speed compared to what the SPI firewall. And just kind of give you a word of advice too, when you're trying to spec out and how you're building your network from a management standpoint, usually I use the WAN connection as kind of the baseline. And if you double the WAN, it's basically the firewall size that you need. Or if you're looking at it from the opposite end, if you look at a firewall and it says it supports 800 megabits per second, usually I'll take about 50% to 60% of that number. So it will support, comfortably with all the UTM services on, of 400 meg connection. So that's kind of your gauge, 400 to 500 megs. So that's kind of your gauge on how to spec out which firewalls to use. So there are ways to get cost-effective hardware with the speeds that you need with UTM. So we have some of those solutions as well. Let's see, can we get a copy of the presentation? I can have it posted for you, Mike. Thank you for that question. I'll try to find a way to get it onto our VAR portal page. I have to work with our marketing to do that, to get that going. The other thing that you want to be able to block is web pages, right? So people going to Facebook, to YouTube, how do you block all that? So the user inside out, right? You don't want them to see. You don't want the users from the inside to see certain things. And how do you do that? You use what we call URL and DNS blocking. That allows for you to use to block not only HTTP websites, but also encrypted HTTPS as well. And it has an evolving cloud-based database that it uses as its part of its engine to determine different categories. So it's really cool that you can say, hey, you know what? Social media sites, you can just block it as one category. I think there's like 60 something to 70 something categories that you can checkbox and make different tiers for. So again, back to the control kind of standpoint, being able to control a different policy for your sales team versus the policy of your management team versus policies of the CEO, whatever. They could be separate policies, and each one can have kind of different rights, different access to that. And that's how, again, you add to that management functionality for your service, for your managed service provider functionality. All right, so how do we do this, right? I talked about several different pieces, different components that come together to work on what to see, what to not see. And it kind of rolls into one thing. When I was thinking about it, when I first thought of this, I was thinking, hey, I wanted to do network management, some sort of webinar on that. A lot of times people will just use, again, I mentioned unmanaged Ethernet switches. And usually when I talk to them and say, hey, are you able to troubleshoot? Can you find out if your customer has a problem? How are you going to literally figure out what's going on. And then, oh, well, we'll just log into the computer and try to figure it out. But there's nothing to see. There could be that there's a network down, there could be wireless that's down, and you have no visibility of where that traffic is going, right? So how do you kind of encompass all those things? How do you get the visibility? How do you get it within the same kind of product? And really Nebula comes into mind. So Nebula is basically our cloud solution that helps you to not only install hardware very easily for this platform, but then use the platform to do all those management things, being able to get the visibility you want on your network, get all the visibility and control over the threats that are there, as well as your access from your inside out. So there are some stumbling blocks. It's hard that people to kind of think of the concept of, hey, how do I actually install and put together kind of a network management solution? Because I have to purchase a bunch of equipment, right? I have to buy access points, gateways. There's a lot of like maintenance contracts that come into play when you're trying to provide a kind of a service level. You're not just going and installing, cheap hardware into an office and say, okay, I installed it, you're done, I'm out of here, right? You want to be able to get that recurring revenue where you're charging a monthly fee and be able to host and be able to maintain guest network access, different firewall rules and things like that. But typically, in general, it's kind of a set and forget it. But how do you get back in? Then you have to actually go and do the installation, and then very importantly, you have to monitor the equipment. You have to set up some sort of SNMP, service log, some sort of syslog. You have to build out like a 24/7 NOC of some sort. So you have to do all these things to kind of put a network managing solution together. And that just adds up to not only manpower, but also cost, right? You have to have access to the equipment, to the infrastructure. So you have to build either VPN tunnels, or you have to get like MPLS dedicated lines to the office. You then have to have a monitoring platform as well. So again, in the cloud, either open source like SolarWinds. So it starts adding up in terms of like a large investment to get yourself started. So a lot of times people just go like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. And then you have to house all that information in the cloud. You have to do, if you have to do changes and complex changes, maybe to a mass amount, if maybe you're managing like a chain of retail stores and those retail stores look identical, but you have to go in each one of those and make changes to each one of those. And it could become a hassle, right, for all the time consuming things to do, especially on the multi-site ones. And then of course you have to manage the users, manage the equipment, all that. So we actually have a whole solution that will solve all this into kind of one platform. And again, that's called Nebula. You can get yourself up and running in just minutes. Basically, you can install hardware, platforms, access points, gateways, switches within, as long as it gets internet connectivity, it's able to call back home to the Nebula cloud and get auto-provisioned through the whole system. It can grab its configuration, grab its newest firmware, all that put together. So there's no additional hardware or software required. That's the cool thing, to be able to configure and monitor your devices across the network. You just have to install the Nebula equipment or the Nebula Flex products. How many of you in here have already been using Nebula? It's been accelerating quite well for us over the last couple of years, and it really, again, it has been continued to evolve. And thank you for all your feedback. If you sent us feedback on what to do, what to improve within the Nebula infrastructure, please continue to give us that information because we want to continue to evolve the solution and make it as best as it can be for you, especially for business, and be able for management. So we've added a lot of really cool additional functionalities if you're doing different types of applications like IPTV and things like that. So keep sending those information to us. That's what we want to do. We want to be able to work with you. And then, of course, because it's in the cloud, you have access to it anywhere, meaning that you could be on a side of a hill, side of a mountain there. As long as you have cell data, or as long as you have some sort of internet connectivity, you can connect back to the NCC, which is our cloud control center, our network control center, and get access to all of the networks that you manage. You can put them into different organizations. So you have multiple customers with underneath different sites that you manage, and you can manage each one separately, different profiles, different configurations, things like that. Be able to manage it all under one roof, and you get access and see all the devices that are available, in that, as well as the the health of the device, what's going on, what's current firmware information. So giving you that really picture profile snapshot of what's going on your network. And then your network can also be visualized as well. It can actually detect within the organization kind of a visible flow chart. So for example, if there were one of these switches that are in this network that is down that it has detected before, it would pop up as a color to show you, hey, there's something wrong with it. So you can see if there's a break within the network. So again, this is a really good tool to give you that visibility into a network diagram, a topology of what it thinks things are connected to, right? Which ports and information. So you can kind of click and see through that. Like I said, if one of the little one of the switches was down and everything behind it was all still red, that means something's wrong with the switch, right? Pretty straightforward. How about your network health? Being able to visualize and see kind of the general health of the entire organization or within each site as well. You can see, hey, how are your APs doing, your switches, your gateways, what is capacity, how much PoE power is going through it, or how much is being used, what kind of throughputs we're seeing up and down. We can see the different applications that are being used, who's using those applications by MAC address or by other information. Let's see, well, local management, Brett asked, local management of equipment in Nebula Cloud ever be able to both be done with switches? It will eventually be able to do it as well. Local management equipment and Nebula Cloud. Not at the same time, or do you mean local management of equipment, meaning like non-Zyxel? If you mean non-Zyxel, we will have abilities to detect them, like we do with our IP cameras. We can detect IP surveillance switches where you can detect the different cameras if they have that kind of LLDP sharing information. We can detect those and report that. But actually controlling the other devices, maybe the best way that we could even control it is using scheduled PoE or be able to turn things on and off. To be able to make changes from the local switch and with Nebula. Okay, so local management. Right now, in order for you to get the Nebula control, I don't think there's going to be a way for you to manage it just directly off the switch, because all the firmware, all the information really is kind of handled off-site onto the cloud side. Now, once it's been configured, though, then it doesn't need to be managed again in terms of local. You could still set up local information. There's some baselines where you can set up just like the IP addressing if there's any static IPs, just so you can get out to the internet if it needs to be. But typically, as long as there's DHCP on your network, it always will get out to the cloud. Now, if you don't need Nebula at all, then you can always use it in standalone mode. But we could check, Brett, to see what kind of maybe case use that you may have where you would need to have local management of it, besides in a break fix kind of scenario. But once it's configured and talks to the cloud on the Nebula side and it has its set configurations, then there really doesn't need to be in a break fix scenario. It would continue to run with those configurations. It just won't get any changes until it gets back online to the internet. But it will still work even when it's offline. All right, but you get that visibility into the network. You get insights into it as well, some analysis information, data about the traffic, data again about where the power consumption is. Again, it's all about having that visibility so you can troubleshoot when the time comes. So it's really important to get all that information together in one place, especially in one place, because I know some network management teams, they may have different solutions. Like they have to go check their solar winds if this one, they have to log into the device on this one. They have another applications that's doing things like that. But here, it actually pulls it all together into one umbrella, one interface, allowing you to even see application-aware information. So what kind of network protocols are being used? Are they using SSL? Are they using Skype? Are they using Dropbox? Which web pages are they using? What kind of traffic are they using as well? And these reports can actually be sent and drilled in as well. And you can use these reports to also send to your customers. We're enhancing a lot of the reporting mechanisms within the Nebula Control Center that allows for you to do emails of your reports to yourself and to your customer. And that's one of the biggest things that gives you value on a managed service, showing your customer, hey, these are the people that I've blocked, or these are the threats that we've blocked. This is how much traffic and data information that you've been using, your average kind of throughput throughout the month, who's the bandwidth hog, of the company, and which web pages that most people are going to or not going to or shouldn't be going to. that information could be made available and provided to the IT or to the company manager, whatever it is, who you're managing. And so that allows for you to have, again, a value for what you're doing, because a lot of this network stuff, it's pardon the pun, it's nebulous, right? It's something that happens somewhere on these bits and data points on a network, and all these packets are moving through. It's just jumbled to most people, but being able to interpret that into something that it's real and makes it understandable to any kind of business. Say, hey, you know what? Yes, I want to block those sites, and yes, I want to be encrypted. Yes, I want to have these kind of security things into place. When will the ADP be on Nebula? There's current discussion, Dan. There is some new things that are happening that we'll have to be able to talk to you about probably sometime in the next 2 or 3 months. I can let you know more about the direction of ATP type devices onto Nebula. But ultimately, yes, we're going to have a device that will be available in the higher speed throughputs with sandboxing in the Nebula Control Center. That's all I can say about that for right now. But being able to do application awareness, being able to see the internet usage, right, even for different web pages, and having control over that, like I mentioned. Also, antivirus reporting. Again, just get a better understanding what you're being blocked from or blocking, and helping with that. So that's pretty much it. Nebula is the solution. I didn't show any specific products per se, because I want to just kind of leave it as, we have a solution. If you have any questions regarding Nebula or never used Nebula before, go to nebula.zyxel.com. There is actually a demo webpage, and the login's right there for you to log into a Nebula demo page. So you can kind of surf around and see, hey, what's going on? What are the different things that are available? What kind of views do I get? And just remember, though, there's 2 things of Nebula. We have a free offering of Nebula. We offer Nebula for free, but it has a certain kind of feature set. We only log information for 7 days. So any kind of network traffic, visibility, it's within a 7-day window. It's a rolling 7 days. If you want to upgrade to our professional pack, you get access to a bunch of different professional features. You'll notice that a lot of times in the when you're in the menu system, it'll say this is a pro feature. So anything that you see is pro, meaning that you have to get a license for to unlock it for those organizations, for those devices. But we do offer especially for the managed service providers, we offered a cool lifetime license for the organization. So literally what you can do is you can pay a one-time license to unlock a particular organization, so a particular customer, into a lifetime kind of pack. And that allows for you, let's say you have 5 access points on that pack or on that lifetime. If at any point in time in this lifetime of this organization, you need to change out an access point. Let's say you have AC devices in there, and then next year you want to upgrade to the AX models because your customer wants the Wi-Fi 6 AX standard, then you literally could replace out those 5 seats with access points from the new Nebula access point series for the AX, and they would take those licensed seats. So you don't have to pay again for those 5. So you still have that, again, that managing that organization. So that one-time fee, you continue to get your recurring revenue, whatever you may be charging. So it's kind of like if you were paying for nodes for any kind of other cloud monitoring system or any, that kind of thing, but offering it as a lifetime, one-time fee that lets you unlock specific organizations. So you may have a contract with somebody, maybe a long-term contract with that particular customer, it's beneficial to just go to a lifetime. Or if you have some other ones, you can still put other organizations, other customers on yearly subscriptions or even multi-year subscriptions. So it's up to you on how you want to do that. But just to let you know that we do have that lifetime, which just gives you a really great benefit of that one-time fee for that organization. But yeah, reach out to your sales rep. We have sales team that will gladly talk to you about Nebula and the different products we have. Like I mentioned, we have gateway devices, we have switches, switch networks, and wireless as well. suggestions for ATP, alphabetized. Definitely, Dan, send me an email on that. I'll send it off to our tech support because there are a lot of categories. And so if you are not part of our partner program yet, make sure you jump into that. It's free to join the program. You start out in the silver tier when you start, and all you have to do to maintain is do 6K worth of business with us over a half-year period. So really, that's like, less than that's a K a month, which from a hardware perspective, that's like 2 firewalls, literally. If you can do 2 firewalls just by itself, you've already hit your minimum there to maintain it. But you get access to 16% off of distribution. I know a lot of partners have been telling us that we have a very very generous program in terms of margin. So if you're looking for double-digit margin and also access to a lot of different resources and being able to do deal registrations and NFR units, those things like that, trade-in programs, then definitely jump onto the program. It's free to sign up. You just got to go to vars.zyxel.com and sign up. And we work with all of these distributors: D&H, Ingram, Synix, Wave, and Target distribution. So if you have any accounts there, feel free to jump into that. And that is it for my session, at least from the discussion standpoint. So if you guys have if any of you have any questions, have any kind of thoughts, comments, please use the Q&A section right now. If you have any questions, maybe later on as you're thinking about it, you can always email me at try@zyxel.com. That's just TRI@zyxel.com. I will try to get the presentation posted somewhere, Mike, and I'll ask marketing to send you an email link or something like that, based on the email that you have through this Zoom presentation. So if anybody else wants to have a question, if you have a question, please ask now. If not, I'll give it probably just a few more seconds. If not, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for spending your time. I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate the fact that you spent it here with me and with Zyxel. We look forward to helping you in any way. So again, reach out to me, reach out to the sales team, help us to get on a call with you or with your customer to try to see, hey, what is the solution that's needed? What kind of network management do you need to instill into your network, or what should you be offering from especially a Nebula solution? The cool thing about with Nebula is once you kind of standardize on Nebula and have an idea of how it works, you can, with the professional kind of licenses, you can clone sites. So you can literally build out, a particular site on how you want it to be seen and how not to be seen, and make maybe for a dental office, a access point, a gateway, a switch, and that cookie cutter type site. When you get a new customer, you can literally clone that to another site. And then the cool app that we have with the Nebula app, you can just scan in the boxes, scan in the QR codes for those MAC address and serial numbers, and add it to that particular customer. And then once those devices are installed and go online, it would automatically grab the configurations that you have there. So you can do all the configurations, do all the installation prep, like all off-site before you even get out there. And then you can even just ship it there. Then your reach now between you and your customer can really expand really anywhere you can ship your product. So that's really the advantage. Now that you're there with the network visibility that you have through the Nebula system, you now can really service the customer still, be able to do configurations as if you were there, as long as it has connection back to the internet, back to the cloud control center. All right, at this time then, again, thank you so much for your spending this afternoon or your morning with me. We'll see you next time. I think we have another Tech Talk in about a week and something also coming up on a Thursday. So check your vars.zyxel.com and also in our webinars page in our website. So until then, we'll have a good rest of your day. And thank you again for being an ally of Zyxel.